It's 20 minutes past 4 here on Rima 94.9. It's Tuesday afternoon and it's time for Creation Ministries International. And this afternoon we have our very special guest, Dr. Taz Walker, who no doubt you've heard before and we love on this station. Dr. Taz, how are you?
I'm going great, Mick. Really good. Looking forward to having a chat to you about all sorts of things, creation and all sorts of things in the world, sciencey stuff and that sort of thing.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, it looks like we're going to be talking about something pretty exciting this Arvo, something that's been in the news a tiny bit, and it's a question that I have had on my mind before. I mean, I've always looked out at the universe, Dr. Taz, and seen things, like the sun and all these things that, people look at and they're kind of live. It's some sort of chemical reaction keeping everything burning in there. And as we know, it doesn't matter what planet you're looking at. If there's heat inside, lava inside, there's something burning. There's something going on. And we all know that if you burn a piece of paper and it gets to the end, it stops. And then it's dead. And so
it's dead, that's right.
And so this universe that we're looking out at, all these live things we've got around us, how come they're not all dead?
Well, that's one of the big questions that comes up because the scientists who believe, have studied the planets in our solar system, of course they can view the planets, but they have assumptions and they have a belief system, and from that belief system they expected the planets to be dead. For our moon, for example, they expected that to be dead, but they've discovered or people have observed that there's some sort of volcanic activity going on. They call it transient lunar phenomena. And the same thing with the other planets, and especially one of my favorite planets, which is Pluto. That also is one which scientists have expected to be dead. I shouldn't really say scientists. I should say, naturalists, people who believe that everything's happening by natural processes over millions of years. Yep. Because creationists are scientists as well. They study the same thing, but they use different interpretive method. But it's interesting how, there's been various space probes which have gone out into the solar system, and the one that studied Pluto a number of years ago, which reached Pluto, it was on its journey for over 9 years from Earth to get to Pluto, which is quite a feat, isn't it?
Yep.
To be able to guide a probe to Pluto and have a look at it, and look at its some of its moons, which is good. And it's really interesting, there's a guy who was an astronomer, a very famous astronomer by the name of Percival Lowell, and he came up with the idea that there was a planet out there somewhere where Pluto is, and they called it Planet X, which is interesting, isn't it?
Yep.
And so they called it Planet X, and they thought it was there by studying the orbits of Uranus and Neptune.
Yep.
And by looking at these, they seem to be deviating from a nice, smooth path through the solar system, and they thought there must be a planet out there or something that's pulling it off its orbit a little bit. And so that's where Percival Lowell came up with the idea of Planet X. And so he predicted that it would be found, and which is quite remarkable. And so it was very mysterious, Planet X, and it ended up Planet X. Well, it was never found, but Pluto was found in its place where they thought it would be. That's an interesting story.
Yes, is Pluto still a planet?
Well, you see, when they discovered it, with these big planets, Uranus and Neptune, for them to be pulled off their orbits, it would have had to be a very large planet. And so Percival Lowell, he estimated that this Planet X must be about 5 times as large as the Earth. And so that's why it was given the name. But a guy called Clyde Tombaugh, he discovered Pluto in 1930 at Lowell's Observatory, and many people assumed that this was Planet X, because of where they discovered it. Oh. And but of course they couldn't figure out how big it was, because all they could see was a little spot in the telescope. So how big was it? You couldn't actually see it. And so it went for years and years. Pluto was this mysterious planet, and it was larger than the Earth, and it orbited something like 40 times further away from the sun than the Earth, and that sort of thing. And it was mysterious because they couldn't really figure out, just all the details about it. And what happened was they looked at the color in the telescope, and they did various calculations, and they all came out that it was a very, very large planet. But in 1978, it was actually, what happened then was there was a guy called James Christie discovered a moon for Pluto, and it was a moon called Charon, Charon. And once they had discovered that this is actually rotating around Pluto, they could work out just by using Newton's equations of gravitational equations, they could figure out how big Pluto was. And the amazing thing is, it wasn't 5 times larger than the Earth. It was actually 500 times smaller than the Earth, 500 times smaller in mass. And so it went from being this mysterious planet to being so much, much less significant. And so that was part of the irony of discovering this planet. And I know one of my astronomy lectures, he said, this is very embarrassing, he said, because everybody got about the same size. They would do their calculations, and they got the same size. It was about 5 times bigger than the Earth. And then he said, oops, when they actually discovered the moon of Pluto, they were able to, come to a definitive answer that it was only actually about 500th the size of the Earth. It's actually smaller than our moon. And so that's what Pluto is. But there's other stuff also that has really surprised the people the scientists who have had these ideas about Pluto.
Tell us more.
Tell us more. Well, you see, one of the things was, the idea is that these scientists who believe that the universe is billions of years old, so they assume that the planet's formed from a swirling mass of gas and dust and that sort of thing, and from that, about 4 billion years ago, the various planets formed. You've got that planetary jingle. Do you know that one? My very easy memory jingle, sometimes useful naming planets. So it goes, M is Mercury, V is Venus, easy is Earth, memory jingle is M is Mars, S is Saturn, useful is Uranus, naming is Neptune, planets is Pluto. So Pluto's dropped off because it's so small, so much smaller, and it doesn't really, it's not considered a planet when they worked out sort of what are the criteria for a planet, what are the criteria going to be, and unfortunately, Pluto didn't fall into the criteria. So it's not a planet, but it's called a dwarf planet in some ways. A dwarf planet is classification. And a lot of people have been very sort of nostalgic, thinking, oh man, Pluto was my favorite and it's no longer a planet. So that's some of the things that go on. But it's very interesting. So the other thing, when the flyby of this flyby from NASA went past Pluto, they discovered that it was actually, they thought it would be dead. You mentioned that, didn't you? You mentioned about being dead and cold and that sort of thing. They found it was evidence that it was geologically active.
Yes.
It had mountain ranges which are pushed up, some of them higher than the ranges on Earth, and it had and so that indicates that it was had been pushed up with geological activity, which indicates it wasn't dead. And then there was also a large area which was smooth, like a plain, and that indicates that that it has been recent. It didn't happen over billions of years because there are hardly any meteorite impacts on that smooth plain. So that was very interesting.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to have to go into weather report right now and traffic, but we'll get back to Dr. Taz Walker very shortly and find out a little bit more about Pluto. You're on 94.9. Good afternoon. You're on Rima 94.9. It's 22 minutes to 5, and we have Dr. Taz Walker on the line from Creation Ministries International. Hey, if you have any questions for Dr. Taz, don't forget you can send them through. Just text 0401 949 949. Now, Dr. Taz, we're talking about Pluto. I mean, what an extraordinary little... Actually, now it's not a planet. What do they call it?
It's called a dwarf planet. That's its classification, a dwarf planet. So, but it's very disappointing for all the people who liked it as a planet and learned about it as kids, and they changed it all just, in the last, 20 or 30 years ago.
Yes. Yeah, I guess the Plutonians won't be very happy about that, losing their status.
That's right.
But you talk about Planet X. I mean, who knows? I mean, Elon Musk might go out and actually find a Planet X because, of course, he's named his company X and he wants to go to Mars. So maybe he'll find another little rock somewhere and just call it X. Because he calls everything else X. But Pluto,
quite amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Pluto's an amazing little dwarf planet. And you're saying that it's kind of alive still. How could something so small, because I've seen a picture here on your website that actually shows it almost fitting into the United States. So it's definitely not that big. How could it still be alive if it's really billions of years old since the Big Bang? That kind of doesn't make sense, does it?
Well, that's why it was surprising to people, is because that assumption, so the idea of billions of years, millions of years, it's all based on the idea that it all formed by itself from a swirling cloud of dust and gas. So that's the idea, and then the sun came together under gravity, and then the other planets came together, and they were swirling around just like a whirlpool in a body of water, So that's the idea, and we've all seen that in water when we've looked in somewhere where the water's moving. We see how it swirls around, but always, the scientists, when they send these space probes out, they come back and they say, we've discovered these amazing things. It's so different from what we expected. Yeah. Our ideas are all going to have to change. And I just think the fact that it's different, they don't ever say we were wrong. In a way, it's always we've discovered something amazingly new. And so the fact that that Pluto has got some warmth with it, even though it's cold. Like the Earth's average temperature is about 15 degrees C, whereas Pluto's average temperature is minus 229 degrees C, and so there's no water on it. It's all ice. There's ice, and there's mountains of ice. And that sort of thing. But they did not expect, it's got these evidence of volcanic activity that's been fairly recent, and smooth surfaces without craters on them, which indicates that was only recent. And so what happens is the people who make these discoveries and make these announcements and write up the reports, they're always surprised at what's being discovered. Yeah. But in fact, like if you start from a biblical perspective, where the Bible tells us that the world, everything was created supernaturally, that God created the stars on day 4 of creation week, and so that was only thousands of years ago, not billions. Yep. And so we're sort of not surprised that it's got evidence that there's still warmth there on Pluto and other, like on our moon and other planets, Jupiter. There's still evidence of heat where it's expected that there wouldn't be any. And the other thing is, it doesn't show evidence of having formed from a swirling mass of gas, which is quite different,
Yep.
Which, for example, Pluto does not orbit in the same plane like all the other planets do. They have a certain plane that orbits in, and it's on an angle. And so that's unusual. How did that happen?
Yeah.
And Earth's axis of rotation is 23.5 degrees, and that's what causes our climates, our seasons. But Pluto's axis of rotation is not perpendicular to its orbital plane, but it's tilted so that one pole of Pluto points almost directly at the sun, so it's almost rolling on its side. And its orbit's not circular, but it's highly elliptical, and it's actually got 5 moons.
Wow.
And they all rotate at different speeds, and one rotates backwards against its orbit. And so there's just all these things which don't fit neatly into the theory, the hypothesis that everything came from, the swirling mass of gas. And so it is interesting what people are finding, but what we're also needing to do is they're needing to come up with other explanations, or you call them secondary hypotheses, which are secondary things that go in to try to save the naturalistic explanation. So Pluto is a really fascinating thing from that point of view.
Absolutely.
And, I think it's one of
looking
my
at the
favorites.
pictures you have, I'm looking at a picture on the Creation Ministry. It's the creation.com webpage, where it shows the Earth and how close it is to the sun. And then way away, there's Pluto from the sun.
That's right.
So
it's
the
way
fact
away.
that it's got heat is just remarkable.
It is. That's right. It's absolutely remarkable. It's cold compared to the Earth, but it's still got heat, which it causes geological activity inside the planet, the pushing up of mountains and that sort of thing, which is evidence that it's geologically active, geologically not dead.
Mm. Wow. And with all that snow there as well, that must be good skiing.
Must be good skiing. That's right. You'd have to wear a jacket or something like that, mate, and wear your gloves to be able to get around on there.
Yeah. Well, real good jackets, yeah. Well, I guess we're talking about the future here.
Yeah, that's right. When Elon Musk goes up there.
Yes. Well, maybe Jesus will come back before then and we'll all be skiing on Mount Zion. Who knows?
Yeah, well, that'd be nice. That'd be good. Yeah, good. Very interesting.
Yeah. Wow. So Pluto, what a remarkable little dwarf planet that is somehow still alive. And I mean,
still alive.
It's a big difference, though, 6,000 years to billions of years. I mean, we're not even close. The evolutionists and the creationists are not even close, but it fits the creationist story.
Fits. Yeah, that's right. It does fit, and that's a remarkable thing about it. And so there's actually one of our guys written a book about the solar system, and he explains all those sorts of things, our remarkable solar system, created solar system, which is good. There's a lot of articles on creation.com about Pluto, and not only that, about some of the other planets. And so the solar system, our solar system shows remarkable evidence for design and remarkable evidence for youth. And I think that's always very, very fascinating and encouraging for me anyway.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Well, I love that little talk. That was really interesting. And to know that that's still an active little tiny weeny planet, or dwarf planet, it doesn't blow my mind because it fits the story that I believe. It fits the story I know. But if I was an evolutionist, I'd certainly be walking away scratching my head today, Dr. Taz. And I thank you so much for bringing this one up. It was a very interesting story to talk about. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Good on you. It's good to catch up with you, Mick, again. Always good.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Taz Walker from Creation Ministries International. You are on 94.9 this afternoon. It's 13 minutes to 5.